Welcome, deep divers. Today we are really diving deep into a topic that's fascinating, incredibly rare, and, as we'll find out, surprisingly impactful.
Mhm.
We're talking about mastocytosis.
Right, a really complex immune disorder. And our mission, like always, is to take this whole stack of sources and just give you the shortcut, the absolute fastest way to get up to speed.
And the source we're using today is, well, it's a bit unusual.
It is. It looks like it's from some kind of health education challenge. It's basically an attempt to explain this really complicated condition in simple terms, which is a fantastic angle, honestly, because with a rare disease, half the battle is just communication, just getting the idea across clearly.
That's so true. And
Yeah.
you can feel that urgency right from the start of the source. It kicks off with this really strong community-building message. It's promoting the Mind Expansion Daily channel, asking people to like and subscribe to join our community. They even ask listeners to support us by buying a coffee and to share their own experiences and where they're from to help us grow.
You know, what's fascinating about that is that kind of almost fervent promotion really highlights how vital community is when you're dealing with something this rare.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it, mastocytosis affects maybe 1 in 10,000 people globally. That's only about, what, 33,000 Americans based on the latest 2024 data?
It's such a small number.
It is. And when the patient pool is that tiny, every single story, every connection, every dollar donated, it all becomes absolutely essential for advocacy and just for sharing knowledge.
It makes total sense. Information is power, and for these communities, connection is survival.
So let's set the scope here. What are we actually talking about? At its core, mastocytosis is a disorder caused by too many mast cells. You can almost think of it like an overactive immune factory.
Okay, an immune factory. I like that.
Yeah, these are the cells that are supposed to fight infection, trigger allergic reactions when needed, but with mastocytosis, they just multiply out of control and are constantly dumping chemicals like histamine into your body.
And that's what causes the symptoms. The source has this great line. It calls it allergies gone wild.
A perfect description.
But here's the kicker, and this is what makes awareness so important. The symptoms look just like other really common illnesses. The Journal of Rare Diseases says a staggering 50% of cases are misdiagnosed.
50%. I mean, that one number tells you everything you need to know about the challenge here.
Absolutely.
And early detection is so vital because if this thing goes untreated, about 20% of the systemic cases can lead to anaphylaxis.
Wow.
And that comes with a 5% mortality risk. So for a disease that's so rare, the stakes are just incredibly high.
Okay, so let's break down that central challenge from the source, explaining the effects simply. Because if the symptoms overlap with things like IBS or chronic fatigue or severe allergies, that's a huge communication problem.
It is. I mean, you have to wonder, is that 50% number getting any better? Or are we just fundamentally bad as a medical community at spotting these mimics?
That's a good question.
It's why this kind of clear patient education is so critical. You have to arm people with the knowledge of what to look for.
So the source listed 7 key effects to simplify this. Let's run through them because these are really the warning signs you need to know.
Absolutely. First one is the most visible, itchy skin. The source calls it a constant allergic rash.
Right.
This is classic. It affects 70% of the skin-based or cutaneous cases.
Then you jump straight to the gut. Gastrointestinal issues.
We're talking severe stomach pain, nausea, diarrhea. It hits 60% of patients. And that's exactly why it gets mistaken for IBS all the time.
And number 3 is fatigue. And this isn't just, being a little tired.
No, not at all. It's extreme, profound tiredness. It hits 50% of patients. Your immune system is basically running a marathon 247, and that just drains you.
4th, and this is maybe the scariest one, is severe allergic reactions.
Yeah, this is the swelling, the trouble breathing. This is the acute danger, and it affects about 20% of systemic cases.
Okay, then there's flushing.
Right. That sudden, intense redness and warmth in the face, like an out-of-control hot flash, affects about 40% of cases.
And number 6 is bone pain. A deep, achy feeling.
Exactly. Not a minor ache, it's a deep soreness, especially in systemic cases. About 30% of patients get that.
And finally, low blood pressure.
Causing dizziness, fainting. That impacts about 25% of patients, and it's often a warning sign of a more severe event coming.
So that's a list of 7. But here's where the source does something really interesting. It double-checks its own work.
And finds it missed, too.
Exactly. Which just shows how sneaky this disorder is.
It's true. When you look at what patients actually report, 2 more things pop up constantly. The first is headaches.
which makes sense with all that histamine.
Absolutely. That constant histamine release affects the central nervous system. About 20% of patients get them.
And the second one?
Heart palpitations affects about 15%. All those chemicals flooding the system can really mess with your cardiac rhythm.
We're really talking about 9 primary effects, not just 7.
Yeah, exactly. And this really brings us to why awareness isn't just about well-being. It's about, well, it's about money, too. The source shows that early diagnosis in 2024 cut hospital stays by 15%.
Which translated to $150 million in savings. I saw that number from Health Affairs. But hang on, how does that saving happen? It's not just from cheaper drugs, right?
Oh, not at all. That $150 million isn't saved on routine checkups. It's saved by preventing catastrophes.
Ah, okay.
When a misdiagnosed patient has a severe flare-up or goes into anaphylaxis, that 20% risk we talked about, they end up in the ER. They end up in the ICU.
The most expensive care there is.
The most expensive care, period. So an early correct diagnosis prevents the system from having to pay for that absolute worst case, most costly outcome.
That makes the advocacy work so much clearer. It's a financial intervention as much as a medical one.
And to understand that, you have to get the different types of the disorder.
Yeah.
There are 3 main classifications.
Okay, let's break that down.
The most common is cutaneous mastocytosis. That's about 60% of cases. It's basically skin-focused. The mast cell overgrowth is just in the skin.
Then you have systemic mastocytosis.
Right, about 30% of cases. And this is where it gets more serious because the mast cells start building up in organs, the liver, spleen, bones. And this type is really key because women make up 60% of all cases, and they often face these really powerful hormone-triggered flares with the systemic form.
So it's not just about outside triggers, it's about internal cycles too.
Precisely. And then thankfully, the last one is extremely rare, mast cell leukemia. Less than 1%, and it's very aggressive.
So let's get to the root cause, the genetics.
Absolutely. For 80% of people, this is a genetic issue, specifically mutations in the IT gene.
The GAT gene, what does that do?
Think of it like the gas pedal for cell growth. In
Oh.
mastocytosis, that pedal is basically jammed to the floor. It's just constantly telling the mast cells to multiply and release those inflammatory chemicals.
So genetics load the gun in 80% of cases.
Mm-hmm. And then environmental factors, certain foods, stress, medications, that's what pulls the trigger in about 30% of patients.
And if that immune factory is left running wild, I mean, the lasting damage has got to be significant.
It is, yeah. Beyond the immediate risk of anaphylaxis, you see major physical tolls. Organ damage in about 10% of patients, often the liver or spleen.
And the bones, too.
Big time. Because mast cells mess with bone health, about 15% of patients end up with serious osteoporosis.
And you can't ignore the mental health side of this.
You absolutely cannot. 30% of patients deal with anxiety and depression. I mean, think about it. Your body is betraying you. Doctors are dismissing you for years. That chronic stress and fear becomes its own disease.
It's why those stories, like that X post from 2024, hit so hard. Mastocytosis' reactions nearly killed me. Early care saved me.
Right. It got 12,000 likes because it captures that relief. The relief of just having a name for the suffering.
So if half of all cases are misdiagnosed, how do doctors finally get it right?
It comes down to specific targeted tests. You have to find the evidence of that overactive factory.
So what are they looking for?
They use a few tools. A skin biopsy is a good first step. It confirms that mast cell buildup in about 70% of cutaneous cases. But that only tells you part of the story.
Right, because you need to know if it's systemic.
Exactly. So for that, they often need a bone marrow biopsy. It's more invasive for sure, but it's critical. It finds the evidence in 80% of systemic cases.
Is there an easier way? A blood test or something?
There is a specialized blood test that measures something called tryptase. Tryptase is an enzyme that only mast cells release when they're activated.
Ah.
So if that immune factory is going wild, your tryptase levels will be high. It's a reliable indicator in about 60% of patients.
So once you have that diagnosis, management is all about controlling those chemicals.
Mm-hmm. And the treatments can look surprisingly simple. They often start with things like antihistamines. Those help 60% of patients.
And there are stabilizers, too.
Yeah, mast cell stabilizers like cromolyn, they help about 50% of people. It's amazing that just blocking these simple chemicals can provide so much relief.
But the most effective thing isn't a drug at all.
Nope. It's trigger avoidance. Identifying and staying away from your specific triggers, food, stress, whatever, that reduces flare-ups in 70% of patients.
And you see this play out in the real stories, like Sarah, the teacher mentioned in the source.
Right. Years of being bounced between specialists for her itching and stomach pain. But once she finally got diagnosed, that simple 2-part plan
And histamines and trigger avoidance.
It changed her life. It's just a powerful reminder of why getting the diagnosis right is everything.
And this brings us right back around to where we started, to community, advocacy, and awareness.
Because those organized efforts have a huge, measurable impact. The source points out that in 2024, advocacy work cut the misdiagnosis rate by 10%.
Which, according to McKinsey, directly saved $50 million.
Those numbers are just. They're proof that awareness campaigns are not a soft benefit. They work. They documented campaigns that reached 3 million people and boosted screenings by 15%.
And the future projections are even better.
Yeah, they are. They project that with more awareness, we could prevent 15% of all future complications. That's a potential savings of $200 million by 2030.
So that community building we talked about at the start, it's literally saving lives and a huge amount of money.
So wrapping this all up, what have we learned? What does this mean for you? Mastocytosis is rare, but it's a powerful disorder. It's that overactive immune factory.
And we now know the 9 key symptoms to watch for. The 7 main ones plus those 2 that are so often missed: headaches and heart palpitations.
And we know that getting an early diagnosis using tests like the tryptase blood test is the whole game. It's crucial for reducing the risk of anaphylaxis and preventing that long-term damage.
It all comes down to that line from the 2025 X post in the source. No mastocytosis, ease the burden.
An excellent summary.
And as always, we'll leave you with one final thought, something to chew on that looks to the future.
So we spent some time on the fact that 80% of mastocytosis cases are driven by those KIT gene mutations. We also know 60% of those affected are women, who often deal with hormone-triggered flares. So this intersection of genetics and hormones, it raises a really important question. How might personalized medicine treatments designed to target those very specific gene mutations or regulate those key hormonal pathways, how might that completely change the landscape for treating rare immune disorders like this in the next decade? That's something for you to continue to explore.